Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the first two verses, the Mahavakya, the great statement, which was part of the Rig Veda, that is Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahma, or consciousness is limited. So that was discussed in the first two verses. Now proceed with the second Veda, the second well-known major statement, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma. This appears in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which belongs to the Yajurveda. Then it is said that there were certain aspirants who were discussing among themselves. They have heard that by Brahma Vidya, by the knowledge of Brahma, that one becomes everything. So what is it that is known? So by knowing Brahma, that one becomes everything. What is that Brahman? How is it to be known? And how by knowing Brahma you become everything? So these questions were being asked among the aspirants were asking among themselves, and in reply, this statement is made in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So I am reading for you the passage where this original statement appears, Aham Brahmasmi. So it says, Brahmava idamagrasid. That this one was agre even before also Brahma. This here, that means the one who obtains in this body, the one who obtains as a knower, as a doer, as an enjoyer, as a very subject, or as what we call the ahankar or the ego, is agre even before the knowledge, even when he is ignorant, then also he is Brahman. The most important thing is that the knowledge that I am Brahma can take place provided I is Brahma. Understand that the knowledge does not produce anything new. Knowledge, like light, only reveals what there is by dispelling the darkness, and similarly also the knowledge that is dispelling the darkness of ignorance just reveals what is. It cannot change anything, it cannot create anything new, it just reveals what is. And so, if the knowledge can take place that I am Brahma, then it means that the I must be Brahman. It is not that by knowledge that the self becomes Brahman, that I become Brahma, or that I must be Brahma. And we know what is meant by Brahma. That is what the verse will tell us. Brahma means the one that is free from every form of limitation. Derived from the word bruh in the sense of that which is big, or that in the sense of growth or the bigness. And so Brahman means that which is big or the big, meaning free from every form of limitation. And that means that I must be Brahman to begin with, then alone I can know myself as Brahman, otherwise I cannot. And so the Upanishad says, Brahmava idamagrasid, that even when this person is ignorant, and of course there is something called ignorance. The question is, if I am Brahma, if I am limitless, as we said in the morning, which is what I am trying to become, that I am ever free, let us say, so I am struggling to become free. I am struggling to become free from every limitation, which means that I am in fact trying to become limitless. Or I am trying to become complete or whole, meaning free from every sense of lack or every sense of want. This is what I am trying to become. And the Upanishad says that is what you already are. Now, if I am already a complete or whole being, and still I find myself trying to become whole, trying to become complete, trying to become free. How can I explain that? No, this is something inexplicable. This thing, that in spite of my being ever free, my being ever complete, and still my feeling that I'm incomplete or I'm bound or I'm limited, is something that cannot be explained, but the explanation is the cause that is given is what we call avidya or ignorance. That means there is something called ignorance, as we've been saying, there is something called ignorance. And this ignorance is very peculiar in nature. This ignorance is not merely absence of knowledge, but then it in fact is of the nature of false knowledge, or it creates in me a distorted perception of myself. If I was just totally ignorant of myself, perhaps then there would not have been much of a problem. As it happens when we are fast asleep, in a state of deep sleep, there is a total ignorance, total blanket of ignorance. Therefore, I just do not know myself and I do not know anything else also. Understand that at that time there is freedom. In the state of deep sleep or dreamless sleep, really I am free. I wish that at that time I was awake. Or that time I was aware, in which case I would have just known what I am. But the moment I wake up, immediately there is this ignorance, meaning there is an identification, and as soon as I wake up again, I find myself entertaining this complex or this notion that I am a limited being. So if there is total ignorance, then it is bliss, meaning that there is no problem at all. No problem meaning that at least there is no suffering. When there is total ignorance, there is no suffering. In the deep sleep state, there is no suffering at all, because I am not conscious of myself. That self-consciousness is not there. It is self-consciousness that is the cause of all our sorrow. We say that other creatures, such as animals, etc., are not self-conscious, meaning they are not conscious of themselves in the manner that the human beings are conscious of themselves. He is very self-conscious. And so the moment I become conscious of myself, I always become very alert, because I know that the I am conscious of always lacks something. There is always something to be desired, that I am a limited being, and so I am conscious of I, who I find myself to be a limited being. So thus my being conscious of myself as a limited being is what causes unhappiness, because I am not happy that I am a limited being. And that is why we say that this ignorance is not merely absence of knowledge, but it is ignorance that creates a distorted perception about what I am ignorant of. As in our standard example of rope snake, that what is lying in front of me is a piece of rope. And because of inadequate light or whatever the problems are, that I somehow see it as a snake. And how come I see that object as a snake when in fact it is rope? Because I do not know that it is rope. So we say that it is rope ignorance or ignorance of the rope. If I had known the object to be rope, I would not have committed a mistake of seeing it as a snake. So I do not know that it is rope, meaning that I am ignorant of the fact that this object is a rope. But if I were totally ignorant of that fact, then perhaps this projection of snake would not have happened. Meaning that if I had not seen that object at all, had there been pitch darkness and therefore the rope never came to my sight in any way, then I would just walk by without any kind of a problem. If there was broad daylight and I had seen the rope as rope, then also there would not have been any problem, meaning there would have been no projection or no mistake or error committed there. But this is a very typical condition of what we call inadequate light. There is light and therefore I can see, but inadequate light, therefore I cannot see correctly. And therefore, where in fact there is rope, I have a projection of what we call the snake. And so this is called the ignorance of the rope, which is not merely absence of the knowledge, because it is not that I do not know the rope at all. I do know it as something, but I do not know it as rope, I know it as a snake. This is a very peculiar condition. In Vedanta, we say that there is the knowledge the general knowledge is there, but there is ignorance of the particular aspect. Meaning that, see, when we say this is a rope, then rope is a particular characteristic of that object. And this is the general characteristic. So anything that is in front of me would be denoted as this, this, this. So what happens is, in that condition of inadequate light, I see that this part, this, but the rope part I do not see, if you understand what I am saying. And so, if I had not known this and rope both, as in the pitch darkness, also there would be no problem. If I had known that this and rope both of them, as in the broad daylight, then also there would be no problem. But in the inadequate light, I know that this part, but not the rope part. This is the general knowledge about that object. Rope is the particular knowledge about that object. I have the general knowledge, but not the particular knowledge. And this is a classical condition where superimposition or projection or errors can be committed. And therefore, I see that object as snake. This is a snake. So my conclusion is, this is a snake. When I say this is a snake, that this is part, understand, belongs to the rope. The this is, that part in that statement belongs to the rope. And the snake is something that is projected, which is an imagination of my mind. So when I say this is a snake, it is not a totally wrong statement. Because this is there. But the snake part is wrong, that is what we call the projection. And that is what causes fear and causes various other reactions. So this is a classical condition when projection takes place. When we say there is ignorance, it is ignorance of this nature. And therefore, in Vedanta, when we use the word ignorance, it is a technical word because ignorance is generally understood as absence of knowledge. But here, this is ignorance where not only that I do not know the object, but then I know it wrongly. Something like that happens about our own self also. It is not that I just do not know myself totally. I know myself. I am existing, I know that. I am conscious, I know that. But that I am free, I am limitless, I am whole, I am complete, that I do not know. Swami, who says that you are complete? Who says that you are free? Who says that you are whole? Well, the scriptures say that. But then now and then we experience it also. Now and then. There may be a moment. There are some moments when I forget everything. All my complexes are dropped momentarily. When something that simply captures my mind, something happens, either most unexpected or something that is most overwhelmingly wonderful happens to me, particularly if it is unexpected. I see somebody who I never expected to see and I am so overjoyed, let us say. At that time, all my complexes and problems momentarily all get dropped off. And I experience a total freedom at that moment. So, the experience of freedom or wholeness comes to us now and then. Except that we do not make a note of it and we just think that that freedom happened because of that person or because of the event that brought about the freedom. As we say, what that event or the person does is merely brings to manifestation the freedom which is my nature. So this is how I know that I am, but I do not know that I am a complete being. And therefore, in that part where I do not know, an error or superimposition takes place and I declare myself to be what? I am incomplete. I am bound. I am limited. I am helpless. So I am part is right. But the bound, incomplete, helpless, that part is error, or that is what we call projection. So this is a very peculiar thing, this ignorance. And therefore, the Upanishad says that even when this person was ignorant, even then also he was Brahma. That means he was complete, he was whole, he was ever free. Who is he? The conscious being. Then what happened? Then, well, on account of the fructification of the virtuous deeds that this person must have performed in the past births, as we say, we accept the previous births. We accept the continuity of life. And we say that this process of self-growth or the process of self-perfection takes place over a number of births. Meaning that this is an ongoing process. And it is not that I started merely when I was born in this embodiment, but that this process has been going on. And that is the reason why people are born with different kinds of advantages. So whoever is here, nobody has started in this life. To be able to sit here and listen to this, in fact they consider it extremely sacred. To be able to listen to Vedas or Upanishad is something very sacred. And even if you listen, there is no way that you can keep your eyes open. It is very difficult to apply the mind to listen to this kind of thing and to enjoy it. That shows a tremendous preparation of the mind. And that preparation of mind, that maturity of the mind, or that subtlety or sophistication of mind could not have come just in one lifetime. We were born with this. And of course, as we grow in this lifetime also, then we keep on accumulating the maturity and growth. And so, what is it because of which I get exposed to this teaching? It's only a rare few that get exposed to the teaching. In fact, Kathopanishad says, Shravanayapi bahubhiryo na labhya, that the self is not available to most people even for listening. Even for listening that you are not what you take yourself to be, that you are something different. Most people are not fortunate enough to be exposed to that teaching. So, we find, if you ask, everybody may have their own story to tell as to how they happen to come about. Of course, some fortunate people will say, Swamiji, I came with my mom and I came with my dad, and I guess they are fortunate people. But to be born there itself is also a product of the past virtue. But anyway, as a result of the fructification of the many virtuous deeds that one must have done in the past. Because the question is asked, if everybody is born ignorant, is there any hope at all? Because since I am born ignorant, and since I take myself to be a limited being, I struggle to become limitless, I struggle, and whatever I do seems to be wrong anyway, and therefore, as a result, I find myself more and more bound or frustrated. Is there a way? As we said, there is a way. And the way is the scriptures, in the form of the guidelines that we are given to live a way of life. The scriptures of all the religions give us the same very basic values. The values of honesty, truthfulness, non-violence. So these basic values are given. And if a person leads a life based on these values, definitely a time will come when this event will happen, when he gets exposed to the right kind of teaching. Why is it so? Because even to lead that way of life itself is a virtuous life. To lead a life of responsibility, honesty, truthfulness, or non-violence is a life which is a virtuous life. And they keep on accumulating virtue. And that is a process of self-purification. And thus, when adequate purification happens in my mind, that means that my mind adequately becomes free from its passions and impulses. It becomes contemplative, somewhat thinking. The mind that doesn't always plan what is going to be next Friday and then Saturday morning and Sunday and which restaurant and which movie, and that's all. And so, there are minds that are always oriented towards pleasures and always planning new schemes. But here is a mind that wants to know, so that's a very, that is a very fortunate person who gets joy out of knowledge. But person wants joy anyway. And generally speaking, a person will seek sensuous gratification to get the joy. But he is a person who gets the joy out of knowing. And so, this is the process that happens. When we lead what we call a life based on righteousness or dharma, then this does happen. And so, when this person, who is Brahma, who is free or limitless to begin with, but doesn't know that he or she is so, on account of the fructification of the virtuous deeds of many lives in the past, comes in contact with somebody. And so, Acharyena, Dayaluna Acharyena, when he comes in contact with, when we say he, you should understand she also, it's an upalakshanam, it stands for both, otherwise he and she, if we keep saying that, but anyway, so when he comes in contact with an Acharya, Acharya means a teacher. This word Acharya comes from A and Char, meaning Acharanam. So that is the person who actually lives what he knows. Number one, he knows on account of having studied the scriptures and having gained the knowledge from his teacher. And secondly, he lives what he knows. And thirdly, he is able to make other people also see what he sees. So these are things that are always associated with Acharya, the teacher, because a person may know but may not have the facility to be able to communicate that. So, and these people themselves, in as much as they know, and therefore their agenda is all over in the sense that they have nothing to accomplish anymore in their life. And so there is no motivation for them to do anything. And still we find these people doing something. So why should they take the trouble to teach people? Why should they do that? It has just become their nature. And so it is just the nature, because they are very compassionate people. In Viveka Chudamani says, Ahetuka Daya Sindhu is like the ocean of compassion. And therefore, for no reason of his own, when a student or an aspirant comes in contact with a teacher like that, then the teacher imparts his teaching to him. Nasitvam samsari. Hey, you are not a samsari. Hey, you are not a limited being. You are not a seeker. You are not what you take yourself to be. Kintu sakala dharma rahitam. But you are the self who is consciousness. So you take yourself to be conditioned. You take yourself to be possessed of different characteristics, different conditionings, meaning that I am a man, I am a woman, I am good, I am bad, I am happy, I am unhappy. This is what you take yourself to be. I am a doer, I am an enjoyer, I am successful, I am not, and so forth. And this is what you take yourself to be. That means along with I, you are adding many things. Like we said, this is a snake. In that this is part, we added snake. Similarly also, whenever I say, I am a human being, so that this is a snake, in that this belongs to the rope. And the snake is something that is added into, joined with that. Similarly also, when I say, I am happy, or I am unhappy, that I am belongs to the self. But the happy or unhappy and everything else is something that is projected, something that is added. This is something significant. So this is a snake. When we say the snake is something that is a projection, that's the imagination of my mind, or that is a complex. Similarly also, when I say I am a man, then that man part is something that is superimposed. Why is it? Because I equate myself to this body. So not knowing the rope, I take it to be snake, and similarly also, not knowing the true dimension of myself. That I really is dimensionless, is boundless. That I has no boundary at all. Not knowing that, I take myself to be bound or limited to this body. And therefore, the I is equated to the body. Just as this is equated to the snake, or the rope is equated to the snake, and similarly here. So when I say this is a snake, I am equating the rope with the snake. And similarly also, when I say that I am a man or I am a woman, the I am, which is Brahman, or the limitless, is equated to the body. This is the one miracle that I am performing already. These two things are equated. The limitless is equated to the body, or to the mind, or to the intellect, to this personality. And that is how I suffer from a sense of confinement, a sense of smallness, a sense of insignificance. And then I try to become significant. So the teacher says, Nasitvam samsari. Hey, you are not a samsari. You are not a limited being. You are not equal to the body. You are not a mortal being. I think that I am a mortal being. I was born and I am going to die. I am subject to birth and death. I am mortal. And then I am mortally afraid also of death. And I think that I am ignorant. And I think that I am unhappy. So by equating myself with the body, the intellect, the mind, these are the complexes that I entertain. So this teaching is basically meant to remove these complexes. What Vedanta does is in fact directs our attention to the various complexes or various conclusions that we have about ourselves. And Vedanta invites us to scrutinize each one of these conclusions and see whether these conclusions are arrived at with some valid reason, or have I just taken things for granted. That is, do I have a valid reason to declare that I am a human being, or that I am happy, I am unhappy, successful, failure, doer, enjoyer, good, bad, whatever, so that I keep declaring myself to be. And every time I declare any one of these things, then I suffer from a sense of limitation, because each one of that conclusion is nothing but of a limited being. And so Vedanta invites us to scrutinize those conclusions, whether I am happy, unhappy, successful, not successful, good, bad, whatever, are these conclusions valid? So that's what the teacher says. Nasitvam samsari. Hey, you are not a samsari. You are not a doer. You are not an enjoyer. You are not ignorant. You are not mortal. You are not unhappy. You are not limited. That all of these things are imaginations about yourself. They are not realities about you. Then who are you? The one that is devoid of all these characteristics or all these qualifications. I am hungry, I am thirsty. See, depending upon what it is that I superimpose upon myself. So Upanishad says, what is the nature of I? Ashanayadi atitam, that which is beyond the hunger and thirst and pain and sad unhappiness and ignorance and mortality. That's the true nature of I. Neti neti. So this is a teaching. Neti neti. Not this, not this. I say I am happy, you are not. I say I am unhappy, you are not. I say I am a failure, you are not. I say I am successful, you are not. Whatever it is I keep declaring myself to be, that teacher says you are not. He doesn't just say you are not, but he explains how you are not. But Swamiji, I was born 30 years ago. Well, what was born? Something was born 30 years ago. What was born? The body was born. Have you seen yourself being born? I'm going to die after 40 years. Again, it's the body. So when you equate yourself with the body, then this idea of this birth and death comes. I'm limited, I'm small. Something is small. What is small? The mind is small, the body is small, your intellect is small, your knowledge is small, your capacities are small. All of that is small. But you are just joining them with I and then say I is small. So smallness that belongs to one place is imposed upon something else. And that is how the feeling of this. So each one of these ideas are taken up. Therefore, study of Vedanta is a fairly long process, and because each one of these complexes as it arises in my mind must be scrutinized in light of the teaching, and I must recognize that this is a false notion. It is a conclusion, a false conclusion, and not a reality about myself. So thus, when this is unfolded to him, his true nature is unfolded to him, then tad atmanam aved aham brahmasmiti. Then he comes to know that I am Brahma. Brahma means that I am limitless, that I am whole, I am complete. I am the one having no lack at all, no limitation at all. What happens by this knowledge? Tasmat tat sarvam abhavat. On account of that knowledge, he became everything. This is another thing that a human being is trying to do, I am trying to become everything. I want to be all knowing, I want to be all powerful, I want to be all pervasive, I want to be everything. You know why? Because whenever I am confronted with something which I recognize as different from me, suppose you are sitting in front of me and automatically I look upon you as different from me and I look upon myself as different from me, moment that kind of difference is created between you and I, immediately a sense of I feel that I am excluded from you. I am not what you are, and therefore a sense of limitation or smallness or confinement immediately arises. You are different, I am different. In which case, what you are, I am not. That means that whatever it is that you are, I don't have that, and therefore immediately that creates in me a sense of lack. When will this lack or incompleteness go away? When I know that you are not different from me, that you and I are one. How can we, Swami? How can you and I be one? It depends upon how I understand myself to be. If I understand this body to be myself, there is no way that you and I can be one. If I take my personality to be myself, if I take my emotions to be myself, if I take my knowledge to be myself, if I take my, the thoughts to be myself, then certainly each one has different emotions, different thoughts, different understanding, different capacities, and that at that level, certainly everybody is different. But then, if I see myself to be what I really am, then I find out that I am the one that is free from every qualification. That unqualified I am. All qualifications belong to the personality, but I is unqualified. And so the I that is manifesting through this personality is unqualified. When I recognize myself as that, I recognize that the I that is manifesting in the hearts of everyone is also unqualified. As this morning we said, that when I recognize that I am unqualified consciousness, I recognize that you are also unqualified consciousness, the one consciousness cannot be in any way distinguished from the other consciousness because there are no distinguishing features. The I has no distinguishing features. See, man also says I, woman also says I, young man also says I, the old also says I. A good person also says I, a bad person also says I. And if you ask a mosquito, he will also say I. Ask any creature, if you could understand his language, he also would use the same pronoun. That I, that pronoun, is equally used by everybody. That shows that the I has no caste, no creed, no age, free from time, place, in every qualification. And that is what is required to be done. All that is required to be done is, I should reduce myself to the simplest possible thing that I am. Right now I become very complicated by adding so many complications, but then that I is plain and simple conscious being. Tasmat tatsaram abhavata. By recognizing his true nature, he recognizes that that's the true nature of everyone. Like a pot recognizes that I am clay, then whenever now, once the pot has the knowledge that I am clay, then whenever he sees any pot, then he also sees the fact that there is also clay. Meaning that once the pot comes to know that I am clay, then he knows that every pot is nothing but myself. He doesn't say that pot also is clay. What will he say? That pot also I am. That picture is not only clay, that picture I am. So once the pot comes to know that I am clay, then whenever the pot sees anything made of clay, what will it say? Hey, I am the pitcher. I am a pot. I am a dish. I am a bowl, whatever. That is made of clay. And similarly also when I recognize that I am that simple, plain consciousness, free from every boundary, free from every qualification or limitation, that's what I am, then I recognize that, hey, that is in fact the essence of everyone. Tasmat tat saram abhavata. By virtue of this knowledge, he became everything. Did he become everything? No. He was everything. In fact, this part, even before he knew, he is everything. He is clay. And therefore, whatever is made of clay, that is himself. However, on account of not knowing, not taking itself to be clay, taking itself to be pot, having a certain round stomach and having a big opening, and thus taking itself to be conditioned or characterized by a certain name and form, therefore, it did not own up the fact that it is clay. And when he shifts his identification from the name and form to what it really is, then he recognizes that I am clay. And then he can recognize that other thing also is clay. That's how this chap is everything. This pot is everything because it is clay. And therefore this pot is what? Everything that is made of clay. And similarly also, I am everything. Because I am plain and simple consciousness. The very witness, that's what I am. And that's what everyone is. But then, on account of identifying myself with this personality, consisting of the body, sense organs, mind, I take myself to be a limited being, and therefore I take that I am not everything. That not everything is a superimposition, a projection of the mind that goes away in light of the knowledge. And this one recognizes I am everything. So this is the original passage. And this forms the very basis of the two verses that are presented here in the Panchadashi. In this original passage also a couple of other questions are there. Who is qualified to gain this knowledge? Only a sannyasi can get this knowledge? Only a man can gain the knowledge? Only a human being can gain the knowledge? This Upanishad says no. Anybody can gain the knowledge. And so the Upanishad says that whoever among the devatas, whoever among the gods knew that I am Brahman, he also became everything. Whoever among the rishis or sages knew that I am Brahman, he became everything. Whoever among the human beings knows that I am Brahman becomes everything. That means that there is no qualification of caste or creed or sex or anything as far as this knowledge is concerned. There are qualifications. As every knowledge always calls for qualifications in terms of a certain maturity. I cannot walk into a class of Master of Science in Chemistry and then hope to understand what is being said unless I have a discipline of the Bachelors of Science. So that qualification is okay. But other than that I must be a man or I must be a woman or I must be this or that, no such qualification. In short, everybody is equally qualified. Everybody has an equal potential to gain this knowledge. Because the human intellect has this capacity to know. And then don't bother about this question, Swami, how can the small little intellect know the limitless? Don't bother about those things. All we can say is, yes, human intellect has the capacity to know itself that I am not a jiva, I am not an ahankara or limited ego, that I am limitless. Human intellect has this capacity to know. And therefore, whoever possesses that kind of an intellect, or whoever has worked hard enough to cultivate that intellect, can know. Did anybody know? Is it just a story? Is it just a hypothesis? Or did somebody ever know this? Swami, I don't think this is possible. Sometimes people say, this is all talk. I don't think anybody can even know, anybody can have this knowledge. So Upanishad itself says, Tadhai tat pashyan rishir vamadevah pratipede aham manurabhavam suryascheti. So Upanishad quotes the experience of one rishi, one sage, whose name was Vamadeva. It's a very famous one. In the scriptures, in the Puranas and elsewhere, this sage Vamadeva, certain sages are very famous. Like Vasishtha, very famous. Vishwamitra, very famous. Vamadeva, very famous. So this sage Vamadeva is quoted, his experience is quoted. That it is sage Vamadeva once declared, hey, I became Manu, I became Surya, I became this, I became this. That means that Vamadeva declared that I know myself to be everything. That is, when sage Vamadeva gained this knowledge, then he also declared that I have become everything. I know that I am the sun, and I am the moon, I am the Manu, I am the king, and I am everything. Meaning that it is not merely a hypothesis, but that this is a reality that has been, in fact, Upanishad also quotes that, let alone you and I quoting the example of certain sages and so forth, but then even Upanishad also quotes. That is all right. The sage Vamadeva must have known. The gods may know. In those days of the Vedas, in those days perhaps the people, in the Satya Yuga, the people were very sattvic. People possessed a very sattvic or very contemplative or pure mind, and so they were very special people who came to gain this knowledge. But what about us now? We are in this Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means where tamas or the darkness predominates. So this yuga, this age which is predominant in darkness and predominance in conflict, and that's the age where we belong to, is it ever possible that someone now can ever gain the knowledge? So Upanishad says, yes. Tadidamapi etarhi, even today also. Yevam Veda, even today also, whoever comes to know that I am Brahman. That is, today also one can come to know that I am Brahma, and by virtue of that knowledge, even today also one becomes everything. What is this business of becoming everything? This is the result of the knowledge. It's stated in different ways. So here this Upanishad presents the result of the knowledge as I became everything. Understand that is what we are aspiring to be. When, as I said, when we really understand what is it that my heart wants, that is a basic urge in my heart which prompts me to do a variety of things. So what is that urge? What is the desire behind all the desires? A different desire seems to be arising in my mind. A desire arises and I fulfill it, yet another desire arises, I fulfill that, and I keep on fulfilling one desire after the other, and I find that new desires keep on springing up in my mind. And it doesn't look as though a given desire is fulfilled, but desire per se is not fulfilled, because a given desire is fulfilled, but then gives rise to another desire, and therefore I always remain a desirer. So desires keep on being fulfilled, but the desirer, that beggar, he never seems to ever come to an end, and so therefore I never cease to be a beggar, never cease to be a desirer. Surely I am desiring something which alone when I get, that this desirer or the beggar will go. What is it that I am seeking? So when we ask that question, the answer will be that I want to become everything. That means I want to be everything. I do not want that I should exclude anything. That I want to be so big that everything is included in I do not want to feel any lack at all. I do not want to feel any want. I do not want to feel any boundary at all. And that can only happen when everything is mine, or better than that I am everything. And therefore, if we understand the urge which is there in our heart, we will understand that there is an urge of becoming everything. And human being is trying to do it in different ways. By gaining that power so that I can control thousands of people and I feel that, at least I am all of them. Or I possess variety of things. And then feel that, okay, I have become this. Thus I am trying to expand myself, I am trying to increase my control, and in an attempt to really become everything. By virtue of the knowledge, one who already was everything, but then thought he was not because of ignorance, and that ignorance being dispelled, discovers that I am everything. And that can be at any time. Not only that, this is a privilege only of a few. It's a privilege only of some people. At some time, it's not so. It's a privilege of every human being. You can say that this is a birthright. See, in India, when the freedom movement was going on, about 100 years ago, 90 years ago or so, one of the leaders in India, Lokmanya Tilak, declared that freedom is our birthright. We can declare that freedom is our birthright, meaning this freedom, the total freedom, is birthright of every human being. Now there are sometimes this question also arises. that will there not be obstacle to this wise person also? See, it is said in the Vedic culture, in all these old traditional cultures, there are always duties to be performed, there are always religious duties that everybody should perform. And in the Vedic times also, that everybody individual was supposed to perform several religious duties, including acts of worship. So when I perform an act of worship of gods, then I make an offering of some kind. And therefore, through my act of worship, the gods receive their share. Therefore they like me. Just as today I may like the customers, the clients, because I get something from them. Similarly also the devatas are happy that these fellows are performing the different rituals, because they get their share. And why am I performing rituals? With various kinds of demands, or various kinds of desires. Oh Lord, please give me this, God, please give me that. That they give. What happens is, in the process of giving that, at least I always remain tied to them, and therefore I keep on performing my rituals and making offerings to them. Now suppose, in my mind now, there arises a desire to gain this knowledge. And suppose I start pursuing the knowledge of Brahma. And what will happen is, as a result of the knowledge, I will gain the knowledge that I am Brahman, I am limitless, and I will be free. And then there will be no desire in my heart at all, isn't it? Because various desires, I want, all of them arise on account of my sense of want. But when I realize that my true nature is the one that is complete and free from every lack, then the sense of want goes away from my heart, and therefore I become free from desires, I become free from demands, and therefore I need not anymore go to different gods to fulfill my demand. I become free from dependence upon them. And so now I cease to perform any rituals because I don't need anything. And therefore the gods stop getting their share. They don't like that. So it is said. And therefore, it is said that they place some obstacles on the path of this person. So many people may have experienced that when we start, so we are exposed to this teaching, and then we really get enthused, and yes, we want to dedicate ourselves to this. Then all kinds of obstacles come on our path sometimes. Not always, but very often. As though somebody has a problem with my pursuing this knowledge. So it is said that these devatas, the gods, they place obstacles on the path to discourage this fellow. All right, but then, having gained the knowledge, will those same devatas not prevent me from enjoying the benefit of this knowledge, namely freedom? He says, no, even the devatas or gods also cannot do anything. Tasya na devascha na bhutya ishade. Even the gods who are so powerful, they also cannot in any way place any obstacles on his path. Why is it so? Atma yesham sabhavati. Because he has become their self also. Understand that when this wise person declares that I am self of all, he is the self of those devatas also, and nobody can ever do anything wrong to them, nobody can hurt themselves. Since he has become their very self, therefore, even the devatas also cannot do anything to him. Meaning that he becomes free from every obstacle. That is, the knowledge definitely follows, his knowledge is definitely followed by the total freedom or liberation. So this is a part of the passage that I read for you from the original text. And this is how Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma, this statement, which is called Mahavakya, appears in that passage. And this is what the author has given here in these verses 3 and 4. So let us read these two verses here. Paripurnah paratmasmin, dehe vidyadhikarini, buddhe sakshitaya sthitva, surannahamiti Sfurannahamiti Sfurannahamiti Paripurna Paramatma Asmin Dehe, in this body. In this body, the one who obtains the self, who is he? The Paripurna Paramatma. The self that is Paripurna, that is complete in every way. So the one who obtains here as a self, as I, Sfuran, so I, that all the time shines or reveals itself as myself, which I take to be a limited being, but that simple plain I, Paripurna. Purna means complete. Paripurna means complete in every way. Meaning that I is free from every form of limitation. Deshakala vastu parichinna shunya. And so one that is not limited in time, not limited in place, and thus the I which is paripurna, complete in every way. Buddhehe sakshataya sthitva. And the one that obtains the consciousness as sakshi, the very witness of my buddhi, of my mind. So now our attention is drawn to the I. In the statement Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma, what's the meaning of I? I am Brahman. So when the teacher says you are Brahman, which you is it meant? That's very important. You are Brahman. And when the student responds, I am Brahman, what is that I? Is it this body that is I? Is it sometimes this kind of problems happen to people? And somebody who was listening to this kind of talks, that you are Brahman, you are Brahman, you are limitless. And so this fellow, this must be in Rishikesh. The Ganges there flowing. The Ganges water is very cold. And we always instruct our devotees that if you want to take bath, dip in the Ganges, just take a dip. At the most 1, 2, and 3, and come out. Because staying in that water for a longer time is not at all good for the body, for the limbs and for the joints. And people have hurt themselves. So this is what we tell them. Go to the Ganges, take a dip, and quickly come back. Anyway, this person, having listened to the class that I am Brahman, I am God. Brahman means God. I am God. He went, and then he went to the Ganges to take a dip. And then he just remained there, in the water. So people warned him, he says, wait a minute, come out. He said, no, I am God, nothing can happen to me. And so people tried to persuade him, and this fellow just would not listen. So one of them had a bright idea. One of them took a stick in his hand and gave him, 2 blows. He said, hey, why are you hitting me? He said, I'm not hitting you, I'm hitting Brahman, And so nothing will happen to you. And thus, people can go with all kinds of misconceptions also. So when it is said that you are God, which you is meant? Not the you that is body, not the you that is the mind, not you that is the intellect, not you that is the personality, but plain and simple I that is the witness of this personality. As we said in the morning, in our mind itself, there is a witness, the I. The witness of the mind. Buddhe sakshitaya sthitva. The I that obtains even today is a very sakshi, is a very witness of my intellect, witness of my thoughts. And understand that the witness is different from what is witnessed. The knower must be different from what is known. The knower of the part must be different from the part. When I say that I perceive the part, then the perceiver must be different from what is perceived. And similarly also, I am perceiver of all my thoughts. As the thoughts arise in my mind, I am aware of them. I am aware of my emotions. And I am aware of my body. I am aware of my personality. And the awarer must be different from what he is aware of. Buddhe sakshitaya sthitva. And so that I is the very witness of the intellect, witness of this personality. And in this witness, which is a consciousness, Sfuran, that shines in its own right, And this it keeps on shining as aham, 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 I. And that I, which is the witness consciousness, which witnesses and illumines all the thoughts, and which shines in its own light, is what is meant by the word I in the statement I am Brahman. Therefore, you see, this is a vakya, this is a sentence, I am Brahman. The sentence consisting of 3 words. In order to understand the statement, we should understand the meaning of every word. Then only the meaning of sentence can be understood. If the meaning of words is not understood, well, meaning of sentence cannot be understood. Therefore, in the scriptures, the teachers first of all unfold the meaning of different words. So in that statement, I am Brahman, what is the meaning of I? So that is being said in this 3rd verse. The meaning of I is the witness consciousness. You are the very consciousness, witness of all the thoughts, witness of your body, witness of your mind, witness of your intellect. And the witness is one who is different from what is witnessed. So that must first become clear. That must become clear first, that I is not this body or not this personality, but the witness. Then what's the meaning of the word Brahman? Well, that's said in the next verse. Swatah purnah paratmatra, swatah purnah paratmatra, Brahma shabdena varnitah, Brahma shabdena varnitah, asmityaikhya paramarshah, asmityaikhya paramarshah, tena Brahma bhavamyaham, tena Brahma bhavamyaham. In this statement, I am Brahman, what is meant by Brahman? Swatah purna paratma. The same Paramatma who obtains as a witness in this personality is the one that is referred to as the word Brahman, Paripurna, the one that is Purna, the complete in every way. So Aham and Brahma, the word Brahma also means limitless. So Aham, I is known, Brahma is known, Asmi, I am. What's the meaning of I am? That am, what does it do? It equates I and Brahma. So when you say I am Brahman, that's an equation. I is equal to Brahman. And what equation? An unconditional equation. That I is Brahman in every way. That without qualification, I is Brahman. Asmi iti aikya paramarshaha. So by the verb asmi, by the verb am, there is a paramarshaha. There is a teaching. Or there is that it means that there is an aikya or a total identity between I and Brahman. Tena Brahma bhavamyaham, and because of that, I am Brahman. So as I said, these statements are meant to help us contemplation. In your session of meditation, for example, meditation nature of contemplation, you can take a statement like this, Prajnanam Brahma, as we discussed in the morning, consciousness is Brahma, or Aham Brahmasmi, I is Brahman. That I, what is I? Is plain and simple consciousness. What is that? That's a witness. It is neither thought, nor emotion, nor a body, nor sense organs. It is the witness and illuminator of, that is what the I is. And the I, that is the consciousness, the witness consciousness, is it an individual consciousness? The answer is no, because in that I there is consciousness, there is no limit, there is no boundary, there is no qualification. The body has a limit, body has height and weight and length and breadth. The mind also has its confinement, but the I that illumines them has no confinement at all, has no dimension. And therefore, that I in fact is boundless, is paripurna, is complete or free from every limitation. And thus one sees oneself as Brahman, which is the self of all. I am the self of all. I am not just the self of one body, I am the self of everything. So that is how these statements are meant for contemplation. And that contemplation becomes possible only when the meaning of the statements or the words which make up the statements and the meaning of the statement is unfolded by the teacher. Which unfoldment, this is what Vedanta is, nothing but unfoldment of this Mahavakya or these major statements. Whatever is discussed, even if they discuss Kriya, whatever they discuss, whether they discuss the world or discuss the problems, discuss the values, discuss knowledge, discuss ignorance, discuss birth, death, any other discussion that is there, behind every discussion there is only one thing that is kept in mind. And what is that? That you are Brahman. That is the only purport that we have. There is no other, whether you talk of the northern solstice and southern solstice and this course, Vedanta has only interest in one thing. What is it? You are Brahman. And whatever else is said is to support the statement, to explain the statement, unfold the statement. Because there are many doubts arise in our mind, and therefore many things have to be stated in order also to clear those doubts. Many things have to be stated also to attract the attention of the student also. It is not enough that the teacher says something, the student must listen also. Not only should the student listen, but listen intently. And should also submit himself or herself so that what is listened also is contemplated in the mind. That he absorbs what is being said. Now, to have the attention of the student and motivate the student to listen and the student to absorb what is being said also requires a lot of preparation. That is the reason why this teaching goes on for a long time. Having prepared the student, the orientation is created, and then each word is unfolded, and whatever possible doubts can arise, all doubts are also dealt with. And that's how this statement of this Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi, is unfolded by the teacher. So that these are all very short sentences, but very profound sentences. And they're so profound that, as we said, they have the potential of resolving every problem in my life. That is, everything that creates in me sorrow or sadness, all of that can be resolved. You don't need anything else. This is the greatest counseling. Provided mind is ready to be able to use this tool. It's a very sophisticated tool. And therefore, we require a sophisticated mind also to use that tool. But if one has that, then this is a tool that can resolve everything. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow morning. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.